Happy Friday, everyone. Happy final day of Eco Week. So today is our second last session. So we are going to be doing what if waste could be useful with BiOrbic. So I'm going to introduce our speaker in 1 second. But just before I do that, I'm going to chat a tiny bit about ECO-UNESCO. So if you guys haven't heard of us before, basically we are environmental youth organisation, and we were founded in 1986 by a group of young people. So we were originally a club, and now we've grown into this bigger organisation. And our aim is to empower the young people who are involved with us to help to protect our environment. And that's through several different ways we can do that. We are also ECO-UNESCO ourselves. We're also proud to be one of UNESCO's affiliated clubs and a sustainable development goals ambassador. So what that means is for us being a sustainable development goals ambassador, we are able to work the sustainable development goals into all of our working, so like our workshops, and then aligning Eco Week with Sustainable Development Goals Week. So each of these sessions is aligned with one goal itself. And then overall, we're just here to work with schools, youth groups, different organisations in the community, and try to help you guys in protecting basically our environment through several different ways. So today's session is with Connor from BiOrbic. And basically Connor is going to talk to us about a lot of different things, but it's how we make a lot of waste basically every day. And what if we could do to turn it into something useful? So I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to let Connor take over in 1 second. But before he does, I'm just going to run through the SDGs. So Sustainable Development Goals, massive word, it can be quite daunting. So basically there's 17 of these goals, and they are like the blueprint for us to basically work towards. So it's a world plan made by the United Nations in 2015, and where all of these countries agreed to work on them, so that by 2030, the world will be a bit fairer, healthier, and safer for the planet. So SDG 12 is what we're linking this session with. So it is about responsible consumption and production. So basically why it matters to us is we want a little bit of less waste, only use what we need to keep land, water, and air clean, and then save resources. So we want to have careful use of the energy, food, and materials, and protect nature as well. And then our healthy planet. So we want to reduce pollution and help animals and people stay safe. So basically, in short, responsible consumption and production means taking only what we need and reusing or recycling, so that the earth can stay healthy for everyone and then also for future generations. So I'm going to pass now over to Connor, and he is going to chat all things waste.
Great, thank you very much, Antonia, and thank you all for joining me today. Very nice to see in the chat how many people are joining from so many different parts of the country. I'm calling in from a rather chilly morning in Dublin, so I hope wherever you are, you're keeping warm. Yeah, but before I get going, I suppose just to say I'm like Antonia said, have a good bit to talk about around what we do in BiOrbic and how that connects with the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly 12, responsible consumption and production. But if at any point while I'm chatting you have something you want to ask or something you want to say, feel free to unmute yourselves. I think there's a function to raise a hand on Teams as well, which Antonia will keep an eye on. Or as well, if you want, as we're going to type things in the chat. I might not always see it while I'm sharing slides, but I'll check them out after, and I think Antonia is going to be able to keep an eye on that. Great. So I believe you should be seeing my slides there. I might get a thumbs up from.
Yeah, you're all good.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Connor, and I'm calling in today from BiOrbic. BiOrbic is a bioeconomy research center, which is probably a new word to a lot of people. I know it was even a fairly new word for me when I started working for BiOrbic. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a second. But to introduce myself first, I've always been very, very interested in nature and the natural world. My work and my study as an adult has always been around wildlife and the environment, and working with. I used to work with mammals and raccoons in Canada. I worked with bird populations in Scotland before, after all of that, coming back to University College Dublin, which is where BiOrbic is based. It's a Research Ireland funded research centre, and University College Dublin is I suppose, our home or our host. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what kind of research we do here, and how that can help us work towards sustainability. And as Antonia said, thinking about how we produce and consume things, what we use to make them, what we do with them when they're done, and how all of that can be a bit better for the environment. Before I do that, I want to give you guys something to have a bit of a think about while I'm talking in the next few slides. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that I have here on my desk, and I want you guys to have a think about what you think those things are made of. And you can have a think in your own heads. You can write something down. You can throw something in the chat. We'll kind of. I'm not going to tell you straight away what the things are. We'll come back to them a little bit later. So you'll have a bit of time to think about it as well. Very first thing, and this is kind of my favorite thing to show you. This here. What do you think this shoe might be made of? I can't see my own face now, so hopefully I'm holding that up in a way that you guys can see it.
Yeah, you're all good.
Great, nice. Have a think. What do you think this particular shoe that I have in my hand might be made out of? That's number one. Number two, I've got a full jar of these here. I use them for playing games sometimes. These little chips here, there's a few of them, kind of nearly like poker chip type things. What do you think they might be made from? And then the very last thing, this is always on my desk, so it's lots of fun. This toy here. So building blocks, you can kind of take them apart, put them together, and they've got spinning wheels on them. So what do you think that might be made of? And Antonia, you might let me know if anything comes through on the chat there. But yeah, when we come back to in a few slides, maybe we'll check in and see what any thoughts that people have shared are.
Perfect. So
to kind of break down that word then, so the research and the work that's happening here, it's around bioeconomy. Big word, unusual word, but to kind of break it down a little bit, so bio, if you have a think about that, that comes from the word biology or biological. So that's just anything to do with something that's alive. So I am biological, you are biological. This mouse is not biological. So anything to do with a living thing, anything to do with the natural world is biological. And then the economy, it's a word that we use a lot, but I don't know if we often think about what it means. And it just very simply is the things that we spend our money on. So the items like the shoes and the toys, but also the going to the cinema, going out for a meal, all of that is part of the economy. So living things we spend our money on, bring them together, and you get bioeconomy. So it's trying to get the things that we want to use from natural sources, from biological sources. So hopefully that breaks that down a little bit. It used to be the only economy. So in the past, for most of human history, the only way to get anything was from a natural source, from the forest or from animals or from plants. Our clothes and our food all came from the natural world, and that continued up until really only about maybe 100 or 200 years ago, when we tapped into this this new resource called fossil fuels, and maybe you've heard that term before. So it's things like coal, oil, gas, things that are stored deep in the ground. That only fairly recently, in terms of humans, we had enough machines and technology to be able to pull it out of the ground, and we did quite well from it in the short term. So with fossil fuels, you're able to make a huge amount of things. So fossil fuels, you think of it as, you might know it as what runs our cars, it runs our planes. It's used for transport, but it's also used to make plastic. And like looking around my office now, it's hard to find something that it doesn't have some kind of plastic in it. It's pretty much everywhere. It's used in medicine, in farming. We might talk a little bit more about how in a minute. And how that works is we basically pull the fossil fuel out of the ground. We heat it up to a really high temperature, and then as it cools down, different chemicals can be pulled out of it. So we can get our fuel for our cars, we can get our airplane fuel, but then also this one, kind of up at the top. Probably a lot of new words in there, but petrochemicals just it's the part of fossil fuels that we use to make plastics. So it's really everywhere. It's a huge part of our life. The problem with that is there aren't unlimited fossil fuels. There's only a certain amount of them in the ground, is one problem. Another problem is because we found this really useful resource that we can make so many things from, we're now making loads and loads of waste. And that's just piling up in piles. It's affecting the environment. It's filling up our streets. And then the other big issue with fossil fuels and burning them and heating them to create these things is that it produces a lot of gases, and we call them greenhouse gases. And much in the same way that if you stand underneath the greenhouse with a glass roof on a hot day, the sun will come through and it will be heated up, and you'll feel warmer. These gases, they go up into the sky, and they have that same kind of effect. So when the sun comes through those gases, the temperature rises, and then that has all sorts of effects on us and on the life on our planet, and not in a good way. So to kind of link it back to responsible consumption and production, SDG 12, that doesn't seem to me like a very responsible way to be producing and consuming products. So yeah, just some of the places you can find fossil fuels and fossil fuel-based plastics. They're in our clothes, they're in our beauty products, our cleaning products, fertilizers, glues. But then these are also useful things, like particularly if you think about, say, modern medicine. We use plastic a lot in hospitals to, if you think about, clean gloves that people can throw away after a time they've worked with the patient. It's used in medicines, it's used in fertilizers to help grow food, help grow more food for our population when there's more and more people in the world. It's in our electronics, which means that people can connect in with other people in the world in a way that they weren't able to maybe previously. So there's a lot of good things there, or I think good things that we're using this for, but just the way that we're getting there, and the things we're using to make them could maybe be better. So I think there's two kind of maybe choices you can make there when you think about that. We could go back to basics where we're not creating these things. We're getting kind of all of our everything we need in the way that we used to back in the olden days. And there's, I think, some parts of that are sound quite nice to me if we slow down a little bit and we consume a little bit less. But then there are maybe other things things like medicine that help us to be healthier, to live longer, to be more connected. Maybe there are other things that we decide we want to try and keep. And I'll come back to that idea in a second. But now I want to talk about some of the things that I showed you earlier. I don't know if anything came in the chat there, Antonia, or people have been kind of thinking in their own heads about what you might have shown.
Yeah, so Ben and Ashling said 2 and 3, so poker chips and the building blocks are plastic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And nothing about shoes yet or anything.
Nothing about the shoes. The shoes are kind of a tricky one. The shoes are
Yeah.
my favorite one because it's always the one that you kind of have to think a little more about. So yeah, I'll kind of go back, and Ben and Ashton, thanks for that. You're half right, and I'll share a bit about why. But I'll start with the shoes. So the guesses that I get a lot for the shoes. Sometimes people say plastic as well, and it is true that a lot of our clothes nowadays are made from plastics.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people say leather, which is again kind of nearly there, and leather is a natural, like it is a biological material.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a lot of for leather that comes from cows. There needs to be a lot of energy that goes into feeding the cows and moving the cows around. So a lot of fossil fuels end up being used in that as well. These are actually made from Antonio, I'll give you a clue and see if you can be the voice of the people.
Yeah.
It's something that people get, or some people get very upset if you put it on a pizza.
Oh, I think I know this answer. I feel like I've heard about these shoes. These are infamous shoes.
Yeah, they're definitely growing in I think when people hear about them, they talk about them.
Yes, yeah. So I've heard about them because Connor has been to several different exhibitions and he works with us as well in other different capacities. So through the office, I've heard about these shoes. So I don't know if you guys know what is like basically a fruit that people are very hit or miss if it belongs on a pizza. So it can divide opinions, but that's what these shoes are made for. I don't know if anyone wants to unmute themselves and maybe guess what we could be talking about. It's very tropical. But yeah, oh yeah, we have an answer.
It's come through.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it is pineapple.
These shoes are made from pineapple. So 72% of this shoe is made from pineapple, which to me just blew my mind when I heard of it. And pineapple uses, so say when you compare it to leather, it uses 95% less fossil fuels to grow the same amount of pineapple as it takes to make the same amount of leather. And it's also, to kind of tie back into the theme and the title of this talk, the part of the pineapple that they use to make this, it's the leaves. So if you think of the leaves of the pineapple, how they're very tough, they can take that and people can take that and process it, and they can make nearly kind of like a leather, like a fruit leather out of it, and that can be used to make shoes and to make anything else that we were using maybe plastics or leather for before. And then at the end of its life, so it's 73% pineapple. A lot of the other parts of it are bio-based as well. They are based on living things. So when you're done with this, you can compost it down. Not in your garden compost, but there's ways of composting things down in much bigger quantities that can break that back down. So you don't have the problem with waste that you do with maybe plastics, which we can recycle them. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of energy to recycle as well. But a lot of the time, the plastic just ends up being thrown away. So that's number one. Number two, and Ben and Aston, I said you were right. I'll give it to you. So it is plastic, but this is something we call bioplastic, and it's slightly different. So you've probably guessed from the pineapples there that there might be a theme here. These are made not from pineapple, but from something else beginning with a P that we tend to be quite fond of in Ireland. Anybody want to take a guess in the chat, or on the audio? What begins with a P? Eat a lot of them here in Ireland. It's not pineapple.
Ben and Ashing are typing. Potatoes?
Spot on, guys. Yeah, spot on.
Good
These are
job.
made, and again, they're made from the waste. So these come from the waste from a potato chip factory. They can take a part of the potato, which is called starch, and they can mix it with some other things. They mix it with some parts of walnut shells as well. So again, things that are being thrown away. And you can make a pretty durable plastic there that really does the job. Like you nearly wouldn't notice the difference. And again, you can break that down at the end. And then the last one. So I won't make you guess for this one, but it is also plant-based, and this comes from sugarcane. So a type of grass that's very high in sugar. And these are made in slightly different ways. So whereas you take out the starch from the potato to make this, with this one you can actually make a type of a different type of chemical that combines in a different way. So it's actually a type of alcohol that they use to end up getting there. So lots of different ways there to kind of I suppose show how you can take something that's going to be and you can use it to make something of value, and that's a lot of research that's happening here in BiOrbic is around that. But there are other ways to kind of promote that I might say a few words about at the end, as well as the research. And just to talk a bit about like how big this issue is. So the World Wildlife Foundation did a study that found that up to 40% of the food that is produced in the world gets thrown away. And that's the food that kind of gets to the end of the line. So that's the food that's ready to eat. But while it's being grown and while it's being transported, there's even more than that's wasted. So that's a huge amount. Especially when you think of that there's parts of the world where they maybe don't have enough to eat, but overall, we're producing more than we need. We're just wasting a lot of it. So I think one of the ideas that I kind of want to communicate and get across here is that rather than digging deep into the ground, pulling out fossil fuels, going through that big process of heating it up and separating the chemicals and making the plastics that way, we can take something that we're already we don't need to do anything else to get this waste. We're throwing, and rather than letting it just be thrown away, we can take it and we can make it into something valuable. So yeah, one of the kind of last things I wanted to speak a little bit about here. So the four parts of this bioeconomy that we're talking about, or this kind of natural product economy. So we want to do a lot of research into how we can make lots of different products. So I told you 3 different ways here that we're coming up with to replace or to kind of use waste to come up with replacements for fossil fuel products. But there's lots of other ways. There's people looking at taking all of the waste that's thrown away on farms and using that to make new types of fuel, or sometimes even feed for livestock. There's people looking at how you can get certain types of bacteria to grow plastic for you. So I think if we move in this direction of relying more on the natural world, I think it's important to have lots of different ways to do that, so we don't end up in the same situation as we are now, where we're so reliant on just one resource that we don't really have. We might feel like we don't really have a choice other than to keep using it. So we're looking at making lots of different things, lots of different ways to get those things. We're looking at if we're, say, growing more, or if we decide we want to grow, say, more pineapples in order to make more pineapple juice. If we're doing that, but we're using farming practices that use a lot of fossil fuels, that use a lot of artificial chemicals, then maybe we're not changing what we're doing that much. So we're looking at that as well. Yeah, I think it's also maybe to kind of tie into that as well as, actually, I think that, sorry, this comes in the next point a little bit. So yeah, putting the waste back in. So if we take the fossil fuel economy, we throw that away and we bring in this nature-based way of doing things, but we're still, making loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff and then throwing loads and loads and loads of stuff away, we're still going to have big piles of trash. We're still going to have rubbish in the streets. So yeah, thinking about ways to make it a bit more circular, so that rather than what we have now, where we just make something, throw it away, we want to think about how we can make something and then turn it into something else and just keep the same resources going around as long as we can. And then lastly, really important one, we need to look after nature. If we want to rely more on nature to support us, we need to make sure that everything we're doing is taking care of nature. So if we want to be, if we want to have lots of different types of plants that we can use, if we want to have lots of different types of lots of materials that we can use that are from nature, we need to make sure that nature is healthy and that all the plants and the animals are well looked after. So these are, I think, four of the really important things that we're trying to keep in mind. But I want to finish by maybe talking about, I've talked a lot about what we're doing and what some other researchers are doing, but just to kind of maybe end, and I know we'll have some time for questions and answers after if there are any. But just for the end of this section, to talk a bit about what you can do and how you can be involved. So there is kind of what I've been talking about a bit now, which is the scientist way of doing it. You could even now, you don't need to wait until you're older. Even now, there are things like the Young Environmentalist Award that ECO-UNESCO run. There are things like BT Young Scientists. There are lots of things coming up in the next 3 years for you where you guys can be curious and start looking into some of the answers to or maybe some of the solutions to some of these sustainability problems. And then also there's lots of options like research centers like BiOrbic where you can come and do research later in your life as well. There's also the people working on the products. So these shoes weren't made by scientists. Scientists did the research. They came up with the way that you can make new materials from bio waste. But it was actually a company who went out and thought, well, look, I think people want to buy this. I'm going to package it. I'm going to make it look nice. Going to make a good product out of it, and going to sell that. So there's ways you can help on that side of it as well. You can do, this is kind of the route that I've gone down myself, the path of education, where you can talk to people about it. You can share information with other people, and hopefully they'll then go on and share that information with other people as well. But even if you're not interested in doing any of that, at the very, very least, all of us in the world that we live in, we're all consumers, and we all have choices in what we buy and what we spend our money on and the things that we choose to do. So, every time you choose kind of now and in the future to buy something, you're I suppose supporting the old way of doing things with using fossil fuels and using plastics and these things that have all these kind of maybe effects that we don't like, or that we might not like. Or you can choose to wear pineapples on your feet and play with toys made from potato plastic. So I'll leave it there, at least for the presentation. I've stuck my email there if anything kind of came up during the talk there that anybody would like to follow up with me separately. But I think we also have time now. If there's anything in there that anyone would like to know a little more about, anything they'd like to ask, or anything they'd like to say or share about about any of that.
Yep. Fab, thank you so much. There is one question, but I might just leave it to the end and then we can do all the questions at the end.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to take over from Connor for a sec, and then if you guys do have any more questions, just pop them into the chat, or we can give you time to unmute yourselves if you're feeling up to it. Unmute yourselves, and then basically you can ask any questions you'd like, and hopefully Connor will be able to answer, or if not, take a guess. We'll see. So thank you so much, and yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from that, or what we can do as consumers, so people who buy stuff. As Connor mentioned, for ECO-UNESCO, there is further ways to get involved if you're in any way intrigued about anything you've learned this week. So we do the Young Environmentalist Awards. So basically that's like an all-Ireland eco-action programme for anyone aged 10 to 18. So what you do is you just do an eco-action project. So it could be anything, even like one of our categories is waste. So it could be even like something, maybe trying to make something out of your waste products that you might have in school, or like a different sculpture, or maybe highlight the waste in your school, even having the different segmented bins or anything like that. And then we have our workshops. So our workshop team travels all around Ireland, and they also do online and in-person ones. So they have like workshops on marine life, waste, fast fashion. They have quite a lot, so you can check them out on our website. And then hopefully when you guys maybe are a tiny bit older, apologies, you would like to get involved in any of the youth groups. So we do like online or in-person youth groups, but I won't go into too much detail about that. So maybe in the future we will see you guys championing waste, everything, all of the above. So I'll pop this link into the chat as well. So for feedback, we appreciate any form of feedback, positive, negative, all of the above. It allows us to change or keep going on what we're doing. So basically we do Eco Week every year, and it's really, really good. It allows us to reach several different audiences that we might not have the capacity to reach normally. And it also allows us to invite people like Connor to come and give their talks and to share his expertise on a certain topic that we might not know too much about. So yeah, any form of feedback is amazing. I will leave the link in the chat because it'll be quite quick to try and get a picture of the QR. And then our final session for today is Nature for a Happy Mind. So that's with Mental Health Ireland. So that's later on. So there's still time to sign up if you guys want to have a nice, easy Friday afternoon watching something about your Nature for a Happy Mind. So being out in nature and just a little chilled afternoon, fire ahead. But yeah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a sec, and then we can do questions or anything you guys have to ask Connor. Also, feel free to contact us at info@eco-unesco.ie, or any of our like website, social media, anything at all. And if you didn't get Connor's information or anything like that, you can reach out to us and we can pass on any of Connor's information to you guys. But thank you so much. I'll stop sharing, and we can get into any questions you guys have. So, can you see that question, Connor?
I can see it there now. Yeah, now that
Yeah.
I got the screen share. So, Ben asked me what my favorite thing about the job is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good question. It probably changes depending on the day you ask me. What came up to me first there when you said it. I'm constantly getting surprised by something new that I didn't know. That's really, really cool. Like I remember when someone first showed me, say, the pineapple shoes, and got me to guess what they were made of. And when they told me, I was like, that is wild. That's ridiculous. And there's just little moments like that. I suppose in the kind of research area, there's a lot of, or not a lot, like there's a good amount of kind of desk work and reporting on projects and the kind of stuff that goes along with that. But it's always interrupted by these little moments of like, whoa, like someone like we're just opposite the labs here, so we kind of be working quite closely with the people doing the research themselves, and hearing them talk about like how they've got bacteria to grow plastic in this specific shape, or how someone was talking the other day about how they're using, how they're trying to come up with a bioplastic that they can use in 3D printing, so that you could then kind of take waste and put it into kind of a plastic, in any kind of shape that you like. So I think that's it. Constantly being surprised by cool things.
We have another one in there now. How come
Yeah.
waste oil from chips fuel cars?
Yeah, that is a very good question, and I'll hold my hands up and say that the exact chemistry of it is not my area of expertise. I came more from the kind of ecology background, which is, the whole, how all the different bits of wildlife interact with each other. That was my kind of pathway to come into this world. Come into this area. But I do, to kind of maybe take a partially educated guess. I think that to maybe kind of think back to that photo that I shared of the kind of oil being separated off into different chemicals. I think the chemical structure of, say, for example, waste oil from chips would be close enough to the chemical structure of the oil that's taken from fossil fuels that they can be subbed in with some adjustments, much in kind of the same way that when you combine potato waste, starch, and walnut shell chemicals from walnut shells in a certain area, you get something that kind of does the same thing that plastic does. I think just the structure and the way the molecules work together and the way the molecules fit into, say, a car engine are close enough that it's an example of maybe where we don't need to be using oils in the way that we usually do. I don't know if I've fully answered that question, but hopefully that's
I think what you're trying to say is that, like, basically a part is taken out of the oil, the waste oil. So like one little part is taken out and then it can be used in a different way to fuel cars. So it's like your cycle that you were talking about, like a circular. Yeah. So it's basically being one part of a molecule or any compound that is in that fuel or oil is taken out and then it's used in a different way.
Yeah. But for any of my colleagues who's watching this back, I'm going to hold my hands up and say I'm an ecologist, not a chemist. So I'm sure there are others here who could have answered that in more detail.
Yeah, I'd be the same, so don't worry. One question I have is, have you tried on the shoes?
The shoes are not my size, unfortunately, but I'm actually currently right now wearing another pair of bio-based shoes.
Oh, wild.
These come from trees, and I believe it's the tree lignin, which they use, which is a waste product that comes from often from the paper industry. So it's not used in the paper industry; it's discarded. And lignin is actually really interesting because you can use it for a huge amount of things. One thing that they started using it for recently is so the batteries in our phones are made from something called lithium, which is, again, dug up from deep under the ground, and people are fighting over who gets access to the mines in different parts of the world to be able to pull those out to make the batteries to use in our laptops, our phones, and everything else. There's research being done on tree lignin where you can create batteries that are actually more efficient, or maybe more efficient in certain situations, like, say, for electric cars, than the current lithium batteries are. So another example of, rather than digging something kind of deep out of the ground, you're able to just grow something. Like, we could grow that here in Ireland, and use that as a new technology. So yeah, tangent there, but the short answer is no. I have not worn the pineapple shoes. They're not in my size, but I am currently wearing other bio-based shoes, and they're
Cool.
very comfortable.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing until I heard about the shoes. So yeah.
Yeah. There's I've seen shoes with uh, the plastic soles are made uh, from bioplastic made from algae blooms.
Oh,
So
cool.
so think about sometimes in say lakes if there's too much nutrients in it, maybe from artificial chemicals that we're using on a farm that flow into the lake, you can get algae that grows, eats up all the nutrients, takes over the whole lake, and then nothing can grow underneath it because there's such a thick layer on the top. And you can use that layer to make a type of bioplastic as well. So there's all sorts of really exciting, and to kind of tie that back into Ben and Ashley's question about the favorite thing about the job, it's those little things that on your day to day somebody tells you about or you learn about that are just fascinating. The possibilities that we have.
Yeah, it's wild to still, like, it's nice to know that things are still being discovered constantly.
Yeah, and I think especially, I don't know, Antonio, if you feel this, or maybe any of the students and educators in the room as well. But when you're kind of, I'll speak for myself. When I'm thinking about and kind of reflecting on these big global issues around fossil fuels, around climate change, it's scary. It's big, scary stuff, and it's stuff that you hear a lot of bad news stories about, and I think that's part of the enjoyment and the satisfaction that I get from working in this area is that you see and you meet and you talk to the people who are, they know it's a big issue, but they're looking for solutions and they're coming up with solutions, and I suppose that makes it a little easier to be in these spaces and reflect on these big issues.
Oh yeah, I feel that too because I work on the Young Environmentalist Awards. So every year you get to see what the young people, their projects are, and the projects are mad.
Yeah.
But it's like really nice and refreshing to see all these new ideas coming through and seeing what they're doing, and it's all youth led as well, which is probably the best thing. So it's all the young people they're doing all the work, and they're the next generation. So it's quite nice to see that you guys are the ones doing all the work for us, because yeah, it's really good. Like, it's really nice and refreshing to see all the ideas that come through and all the innovation as well, all the new ideas that come through that maybe people haven't thought of, or even a small idea that starts like in your local community and then it's grown. So like some people, like last year they did like stickers for businesses with, if they were like climate positive businesses, so they went around to local businesses and saw what they were doing. So yeah, it's quite cool. But sorry, we'll just keep talking if we're not stopped. So if you guys do have any more questions, hopefully I have the form here, but yes, I do. Perfect. So if you want any feedback, put in any feedback you'd like. But any more questions, you can pop them over to our info at ECO-UNESCO, and then we can send it either on to Connor, if it's for Connor, or we can hopefully internally try answer some. As this was recorded, it all will be on our YouTube as well later on, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. But yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys later on today, maybe for our final session. But thank you so much, Connor. Thank you. That was really, really good. And thanks for everyone who tuned in as well.
You're very welcome. It's really, really nice to chat with you all today.
No worries. Have a great weekend, everyone. And see you maybe soon. Bye, guys.
See ya.